experience with a strong pathway program that could meet their needs. So really being creative in how we can do that. And we've been having conversations with the directors around how do we maintain the programs in a creative and thoughtful way that also is going to entice folks to come back to E.O. Smith.
I'd be interested to hear more at the board level about sort of strategy, high level strategy. They're not course by course kind of opportunistic stuff, but just a longer range plan of that. As an aside, in terms of planning, sort of competition for those students, is it your understanding that Wyndham Tech is moving to Mansfield?
I haven't heard, so I'm not sure. I've heard, I think, from our conversations that that's the murmur.
Okay. I'm hearing some stuff too, but so I don't take that as any better informed information than you have. So I just didn't know if you could clarify. Okay. That would make it a little more competitive, right?
Yeah.
In terms of geographically, be more attractive for tech folks because it wouldn't have to be
And you know, so, and I always wonder, like I know in Windsor Locks when they built a magnet school right down the street.
Yeah.
You know, and that was our biggest concern was that we're going to lose all these kids to magnet school. And we really didn't. You know, the kids either want to go there or they don't.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't necessarily know if the geography will make a difference.
Side.
Yeah. So we want to continue to build opportunities for students to build leadership skills and voice in their learning community. That is something that, you know, as we focus on student-centered learning, it's more than just making them active in their learning, but truly giving them a voice in their learning and helping to support their independence. And then ensuring adequate funding of capital improvements, indoor air quality, future property for Star and Depot, and then our security improvements and maintaining that one-to-one technology plan that started back in 2020, which Seth and team have been doing a really, really great job with, but it is no small task to maintain with increasing costs for that technology.
Sharon, when you were speaking about Wyndham maybe relocating here, I get to speak with a lot of people in Willimantic due to organizations I belong to, and they are vehemently opposed to that. It's not just one, section of the community, but that would make it so difficult for students in that area, for the transportation. So I think there's a lot of resistance.
Yeah, I mean, transportation, we transport students to Wyndham Tech. So transportation wise for us that we're paying for anyway, it wouldn't be terrible. But I can certainly understand why it would be a challenge for the Wyndham folks.
And it's also a part of their identity, as that part of the state.
Yep. So this is just a summary of our last 5 budgets, where you can see the change over time, slowly increasing. We've been within over the past 3 years, 3.5, 3.6, 3.6. Our challenge is the big giant elephant in the room is our percentage increases are nominally going up, but our enrollments are going down.
A question, and I just took a look at the difference between 25, 26 and proposed 26, 27. It shows the total enrollment has gone down 44. 44, 54. No, 44. But within district, so the member towns has gone down a little bit more than that. It would probably be helpful going forward to see those broken down, so we see both the overall plus the member town. I think it's easy to do, but
yeah, we have those from our October 1.
Oh, okay.
Enrollments. So when we look at
So that's on the page.
well, it's on. I can get this for you. We have we don't usually include this in the budget book, but this is from our retreat packet in December. when we look at our enrollment numbers
Okay,
for the 70 towns. But I can, we can get that for you.
so of the, okay, so of the 1136 member towns. Well, also, I mean, just looking at these year to year,
Okay.
so it looks like between 25, 26, 26, 27, the member towns went down 47. The overall went down 44. I think those are helpful to know because we want to keep track of how our member towns are doing too, because that impacts the tax levy.
Yes. Yeah, and where are we making a difference
Right.
potentially with increasing tuition and revenue?
Right, right.
Okay.
While we're on enrollment, just to get clarity on this, so we talked about the new C6 being district student enrollment projections for EO or DEPO only. C10 remains
Mhm.
District or member town, right? Still only district, right, at that point, right?
Yep.
Projected enrollment for all, what was the term, like, not just EO
That
and
is,
DEPO, but all the students,
that is the
right?
current enrollment. So when you look at 177 for Ashford, that's the current enrollment
Yeah,
for Ashford.
So that includes
current or
tech.
projected, I'm more looking at the bucket.
So that
Yeah.
includes the tech
That
student
includes-
well
yep,
and
that-
magnet.
Yep,
Yeah, so
that's
just,
magnets, tech, ag, star, depot, and outplace.
okay, what's the, do we have a term for that? Just because we're gonna go around this a lot. What are we calling it?
So that'd be the total
Total,
students from each town, right?
totally, well, the way that it's labeled on our enrollment report that we get at our retreat is enrollment by program town. So it would be considered, I would think, Amanda, you can correct me on this one, it's our total enrollment by
Total
town.
enrollment,
Yeah, so
district, total district enrollment, period, total.
Total
enrollment
district enrollment, yes.
of the member towns, of the member.
District, yeah,
Total district
Yeah, yeah,
enrollment by
district,
town.
whatever,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
total period, meaning any program, any building,
Yep.
no matter where they go.
Yep.
Okay, just trying to get, as we talk about this, because we're
Oh, yeah.
going in circles. All right, and that is the number. And that is the member distribution of that number is what determines the levy.
Correct.
Not, and I'm repeating what we've already talked about, but
Yep.
just sort of more for a broader
Yep.
digestion here, because we were talking beforehand. So the C6 numbers are interesting,
Mhm.
but they're not what the levy's based on.
Correct.
They're based on C10 numbers, which are the total enrollment for the district by town. Okay.
Right, and the levy also takes into account the revenue, so the students who get from out of district in the revenue portion, they're picked up.
Yeah, sorry, yeah,
So
exactly.
when you get to the levy number, it takes out that revenue piece that we get from them. But I still think the question is based on these numbers
On C10.
on C10, the 21,726 projection, right? For the total tax levy
Mhm.
and the 889 students, that brings the per pupil cost to the students in the district to well over the 19,000 that's shown on page, because that includes all the students, including Columbia, including, because it says it includes all 1136.
Right, so Amanda, what Tony's talking about is comparing the 889 number to the chart on page C4.
Which is not district enrollment. It's.
I'll have to look into that one. I don't do the C4, Sharon. That's something you do, the per pupil.
The per pupil is the,
It picks up
it's the total number of students,
including the revenue.
including the revenue students.
Yeah. So that 19,125
Mhm.
doesn't reflect what the taxpayers from the member towns are paying per student. Because they're paying 21,700, and divide it by 889, you've got over 24. That's what, so when people in Mansfield, Wellington, and Ashford, the levy,
Mhm.
they're paying, even after the revenue coming in from, they're paying over 24,000 for each student. And I think we have to disclose that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna need to sit down and look at, because we also have to look at the apportionment piece. well.
Apportionment but between the towns.
Right.
Well, that's gonna, it's still it's still gonna be the same for each student.
Right.
Right, so the math, dividing 21,726, to your point, Tony, by 1136 is not,
That's the 19,000 on
I know
page.
what it is, I'm saying, but that's
Yeah,
not
and-
valid math.
No, when you do it based on the 889, it comes into 24,000.
Or you get that though, just simply this page itself,
Yeah.
right? That you're including students dividing by things after you've taken the revenue out.
Right. Right, you're calling it the district, and it's not just the district.
Excuse me, are you looking at something other than C6 and C10? Are you looking at E?
You're looking at C4.
C4.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So to me, the things that are wrong with C4 right now are that column, third column says district enrollment, that's the total enrollment. It's not the district enrollment. The total enrollment would be 88. I mean, the district enrollment would be 889.
I think that this chart, so this chart's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I understand.
I think that this chart isn't necessarily saying how much each town is paying per kid. I believe that this chart is saying how much it's costing approximately to educate each kid based on
Yes.
the, right, but
But I
not
still think
necessarily.
that when you're talking about the member towns,
Yeah.
because the tuition students, I mean, first of all, that number doesn't include all their costs. It includes
No,
the
it
member.
doesn't, it's not all the costs, because the costs are not in the 21,726, right? The costs,
I mean, they're paying their special ed, they're paying their transportation.
Yeah.
So that whole thing is kind of a
even
mess.
tuition revenue is not in the
Right,
21,726, right?
right,
So it's not
you know.
all the costs.
I'm
No.
really good with this page going away, I'll be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Could we just,
This page has always caused a little bit of angst. I was saying all the way back to her.
Yeah, but so I think that the question then becomes, we take this page out, we have nowhere in here where we're saying what the cost per pupil to the district towns is, and
That is
should
true.
that be?
Well, I think that, and it just created that discrepancy. But moving forward, I think we're more clear on what those numbers are, and I think you're right, Tony, being really explicit about what they mean.
So this is district student enrollment projections.
It's actually,
It's.
no, it's just the
school-
EO Smith
it's the school,
campus. It's just the people who are coming to this building.
EO Smith High School.
Within the district.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's district,
including Depot, right?
Yeah, the C10 is the total district. So it includes people going to the tech school and magnet school, but the C, whatever, the C,
okay, because this column says total district.
yeah, it really isn't.
Mhm.
It isn't really. It's total
Yep, for EO.
EO.
We can revise that now that we know exactly
Yeah.
what's reported, and Morgan, it is Depot as well, yes.
Okay, so it's district student enrollment projections for EO and Depot.
Although we're gonna have to pay really close attention to that, because now that we have Depot students going directly from middle to
Oh,
the
right.
Depot campus. Because in the past, kids wouldn't go to Depot until sometimes they were the end of their sophomore year into their junior year. And now we have students attending Depot directly out of middle school. So moving forward, we'll be much more clear on that. And I'm going to start sharing. Well, apparently I already am. How about them apples? That's why you guys can't see us. Sorry about that.
Did we lose them?
What's that?
Who do you
No-
think you
Oh, there
lost?
you are. Okay.
Gonna
You are no longer sharing. Up, there we go. Perfect.
go again. I'm just gonna move that out of the way. So like in previous years, this is really the broad overview. Obviously, questions are welcome at any point. I'm going to take you through some of the big ideas, and then, just any questions that we might have along the way. In theory. So as always, our mission has remained the same. We are committed to academic excellence. We're looking for personal achievement, integrity of our students. We want students to be respectful. We want them to learn from our differences, embracing equity always. We want them to be self-directed and independent learners, and we want them to contribute to an ever-changing and diverse society. Our vision of the learner also has maintained stability. We want our students to acquire knowledge, to be independent, to apply their deeper understanding. We want them to be critical thinkers, and we want them to be prepared to work collaboratively with their colleagues and to be creative and thoughtful and to do their work with purpose. These are our vision of the graduate standards. And again, these have remained pretty stable since before I got here. We want our graduates to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, active citizens, communicators, and someone who demonstrates curiosity, personal responsibility, and content literacy. We've heard a lot this year about literacy in general, content literacy across all of our disciplines, but also specifically our focus this year on literacy as that great equalizer, students having access to all of their discipline, all of their content through literacy in general. It's really important for us to go back and revisit our guiding principles. This is just a snippet of our guiding principles of something that we review every year. We'll be talking about these again. At the end, I'll be reviewing just really briefly as part of our guiding principles, our security plan as it relates to our staffing, our mental health, and our facilities. But E.O. Smith is committed to achieving and sustaining a diverse, equitable, and just educational community, and pledge ourselves in E.O. Smith High School to embracing diversity in its broadest sense by respecting diversity of viewpoints and experience, by expanding diversity in our teaching staff, and by providing a curriculum which includes the history, experience, accomplishments, and cultural richness of BIPOC individuals and communities in America. Identify and pursue the work necessary to realize equity of access and opportunity for all our students, and confront and dedicate ourselves to eradicating discrimination, inequitable practices, and intolerance directed against members of our BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ communities, our students with disabilities, any members of our community as a result of their gender, religion, ethnic origin, or socioeconomic status, and against any members of our community who in any other manner are survivors of unjust and inequitable practices. Our E.O. Smith theory of action is something that we have at the beginning of everything that we talk about. Basically, if we're committed to the belief that we can and will teach all students to high levels, or every student to high levels, and if we support our teachers in learning social, emotional learning, mastery-based learning, and student-centered approach to learning, then our students will thrive both socially, emotionally, and academically. Our school program and enrollment, we have 1,136 students. When we look at our students, 1,082 are inclusive of our tuition and magnet school students and our 112 students who go to tech schools. And then we have 23 students that go to our Depot campus, 22 students that are, 23 students that are in our STAR program, 22 students that are at Depot, and 9 students that are outplaced. Those numbers are shifting. So next year we'll have 24 students at our STAR program. We have about 26 Depot campus students because since October 1, our number of Depot students have increased. Our enrollments by town as of October 1, 2025. And the towns that are inclusive under other would be our students from Eastford, Union, Brooklyn, Chaplin, Tolland.
And at this point, Wyndham and Coventry lines are substantially or completely VOAG.
Correct.
Right? I mean,
Correct. Aside from one Coventry student.
Just okay. 90+%, or maybe it's even higher, would be VOAG. Yeah.
There's 247, the total of those non-member.
Our demographic update, so you'll see rather flat in the number of students who are special education students, just a slight decline. Our 504 students, again, relatively flat, just a slight decrease. English language learners have gone up, and our free and reduced lunch has gone down a little bit. I'm always a little leery of the free and reduced lunch number, only because, especially at the high school level, number one, families are a little bit leery once students get to the high school of the stigma. And we also know that that threshold piece, despite the fact that students may not necessarily qualify that threshold for qualifying for free and reduced lunch, we do know that we have families that are just above that threshold, but who are still in need.
I just want to say the education committee had a hearing of this, the proposed bill yesterday, remote. I didn't listen to the meeting, but I read the Connecticut Mirror article this morning. They said there was very strong support for the free breakfast. There were questions raised about the real cost of the reduced lunch, and I did read the testimony that went in, including my own, and although I supported the bill, I did raise the fact that the ultimate goal ought to be to get to, and that seemed to be the general tenor of those who were writing letters saying, this is a good step, but we should move towards true universal. So I don't know where that's going to stand right now. I sent messages to both my state senator and state rep, and I know Sarah submitted testimony. I don't know if anyone else did, but we'll see. I think the breakfast looks pretty good, at least anyway.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, fingers crossed for the free and the reduced piece. So class sizes, as we have our conversations about reduced student enrollment, paying close attention to the class size is really important. We're looking at the average class size here. Sometimes that can be a little misleading in some ways. So as we get further into the conversation, I look very closely at I look at the class size for every single course that we're running right now. And so we'll talk a little bit about that when I talk about some reductions that I proposed for this particular budget.
Just how well distributed the sizes are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. When you look at them, in English, we would expect the average class size to be up a little bit. We did see a reduction in a staff of one staff person last year, actually a little bit more than one staff person last year. And considering that, we didn't really see a huge shift in the average class size. Social studies went down a little bit. World languages, again, pretty stable, even though we did reduce a full FTE by reducing that German position. Math, fairly stable. Science, we see the numbers, it's actually gone down slightly. Career and tech has gone up a little bit. Fine arts and music, that is also a little misleading because that number doesn't include the giant choruses and the giant band. So that is inclusive only of those smaller music classes. So it doesn't really tell the whole music story, because we all know that, 75% of our kids are taking music. So, no, I'm sorry, a third of our kids are taking music. Fine arts performance, those classes do tend to be a little bit smaller. I'm sorry, those are our theater classes. The fine arts visual, those are our art classes, and those have to be capped. Those are capped at a particular size, and some of those classes are actually quite large this year. Some of those sections, if you walk down my hallway, you'll see some of their easels out in the hallway, and I get to watch them work their magic on my way back to my office. PE and health, those class sizes are, fairly stable. You can see their average class size went down a little bit. There's feast or famine sometimes, depending on the scheduling of the students. And then ag ed maintains some consistency there. And again, that really depends on the year of the student, and they have a certain number of teachers that they have to have per the number of students that they have in the program. So in our current budget, some of the things that we've tried to maintain, focus on curriculum. 100% of our courses have been completed in stage 1 of the curriculum development for UBD, Understanding by Design. Template, more than 90% have completed stage 2 in the UBD template and are working on populating their assessments. That's the last piece. So if they're not, they are largely done. They're just populating their assessments, and departments are currently working on populating stage 3. So they're adding in their unit guides as a resource for stage 3 of the UBD template, that stage 3 piece. All of those are housed on the Atlas Rubicon platform. Professional developments focused on the implementation of the grading and reporting policy, as well as whole staff reflective intelligence. So that's work that we've done. A little piece of each of our full day professional development has worked around, it's actually a card game. So prior to this year, last year we had about 20 teachers in a cohort with Tim Klein, who is the professor from Boston University, who trained them on this card game around getting folks to talk about values and beliefs, with the idea and the goal that some of those conversations would make their way into classrooms to really build belonging and kind of that collective sense of community in our classrooms. So we've been working just about an hour 15 minutes in every PD day of us working as a staff in small groups to have these conversations around the card game. I've gotten to be able to participate in those, which has been great. Every PD day, it's been a different group of people that I've been able to get to know in a way that I've not been able to get to know them prior. So some folks love it, some folks don't. Depends on how deep you want to go. Some people like to keep it kind of surface level. Some folks like to go a little bit deeper with their conversations, but it has been definitely, you know, taking a wellness approach to staff belonging to a new level. Additional choice opportunities also during PD has been around technology, specifically around artificial intelligence. And how are we preparing for it? How are we implementing it in our classrooms? How are we teaching our kids to be prepared for using it responsibly, so that they are not at some point in their existence getting jammed up, not knowing how to use it appropriately. Use of iReady reading data to support student literacy across disciplines. You've heard a lot about that in the presentations from our directors. Our security upgrade was completed at the main entrance. That was a huge accomplishment and a big investment on the part of the district. Luckily, we will be seeing some of that money come back to us in our capital through the grant that from 2023 that was just awarded. We added an addition of, we had added a welding and power systems course to our ag department. So as you remember last year, we kept a CTE position in our budget. We were able to fill that position, and then that position was vacated in the fall, and we were unable to fill that position. You're going to see in the budget this year that I am not trying to fill that position. We are kind of letting that position go, but trying to be flexible with the staff that we have around offering some courses. So this course, although it's offered through the ag department, it is being offered to anyone at EO. And so it's allowing us to use some of the equipment that we have down there. You'll see that there's going to be you'll see an increase in the ag budget to one of their computer lines, because there's a program that they use within this course. So we've increased that budget line, and students use that program for the certification that goes along with this course. Fully integrated our Tier 2 intervention plan that's in place. That includes the student center, academic study halls, and the peer tutoring. We've continued to work with the building committee on indoor air quality and the search for a permanent location for STAR. We've continued the math summer acceleration program by offering Algebra 2 honors over the summer. Lou's done a lot of work with anecdotal data that I'm sure he's very excited to share with you the outcome of his conversations with students and how that has supported the work around upward mobility. How has that kind of provided them the momentum to continue to take higher level courses that they never knew were available to them before, and get them to be thinking about kind of where they want to go with their future just by offering the opportunity to
What
accelerate
kind
their
of
math.
participation are we having?
We get 16 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they'd be most of them probably from Wilmington.
Yeah, mostly, yes,
Yeah.
or in Wyndham.
Okay, and is it remote or here?
It's here. Yeah, it's supported by a teacher. It's an online program, but it's supported by a teacher. We incorporated the high school musical stipends back into the operating budget, so we had another successful season with the Music Man, and replacement of aging staff and student staff PC and computer equipment. So when we started back in December, this was the original levy prediction that we shared, kind of where we were going to start. Oh shoot, I have this for you guys. So you can
No, you can
look
see
at
that.
it.
Thank you.
Right?
It's a lot of great information.
Sharon, do you have anybody there in person?
Yes.
Tim and Tony.
Yeah, I'm here,
Okay,
Tim and
good.
Tony.
And are we going to have any participation from the town people?
Not that I know of. That's why we're here in person. I didn't want, because we had posted this as a public meeting,
This way.
open to the public. That's why I'm here, in case anybody showed up. They could have the opportunity to participate.
Well, that's great. Who was speaking? Was that Amanda?
That's Sharon.
No, I thought so. I heard somebody else. All right, do I need to call this meeting to order then?
Sure.
So be it.
Okay.
All right, so this is a meeting for the superintendent to present the proposed budget for 2026, 2027 and address any initial questions.
Had some up front, which was absolutely awesome. I have some questions from Janice that I will, I'll address some of those questions as I go through the presentation. We've had some questions from Tim and from Tony. Some of them we sent you some information up front. So everyone should have received a copy of my PowerPoint presentation and a PDF of an updated, doesn't say page C6, but it's an updated page C6. And Amanda, please, you can unmute and just jump in on anything. I'm out of breath because I just had to run down to my office and get my budget book because of course I forgot something on my way down here. This is an updated page C6. So Amanda and I met with Peter Prouda yesterday, who is the gentleman who does our enrollment projections. We hadn't had it done in quite some time. And we used his draft enrollment projections for the development of this budget book. And folks were kind of alarmed by the top part of the page C6 and the bottom part. The top part are the actuals of what historically were actually the enrollments.
So
And the
we're looking
bottom
at what
parts
page?
on C6.
Okay.
So that was that along the page
Mhm.
that's sent up in here with a new set of projections that I actually sent in an email today. So one of the challenges with the historical actual projections or the actual enrollments and the projections is, especially from last year to this year, we saw a lot of students go to tech. And so historically, there hadn't been huge differences or drastic differences between the actual and the projected really until this year. So what and am I okay so far, Amanda?
You're good.
Okay. And so what we asked Peter to do, or actually what Amanda did for us today, was to take Peter's old historical projections and put that into our chart so that you could actually see what his projected enrollments were, his projected enrollments were in the top part of the chart, and then compare it to what he's projecting moving forward. And you see that those numbers are not so then drastically different. Because I think that that's what everybody was, and what his numbers represent are the numbers of students who are just enrolled at E.O. Smith High School. And so that comparison of C6 to C10, that C10 page, which was also alarming for our select person from Ashford and Tim and Tony and Janice who brought this up, was that those numbers were very, very different from each other. So the numbers that Amanda uses for the levy include all of our students that we pay to educate. And those include students who go to Tech, who go to Magnet, who are not necessarily attending E.O. Smith High School. So those numbers are different from what Peter projects and what Amanda includes in the levy pages.
Could I ask a question? Because it would be helpful, I think, on the heading of that